Right now, Wi-Fi is everywhere. Your phone connects to it, your laptop, your smart devices. But what if the same signals could identify you? And I don't mean your phone, I mean actually you, the person, just by how your body interacts with radio waves. Researchers at La Sapienza University in Rome created a system called WhoFi that can re-identify people with over 95% accuracy based purely on how their bodies interact with Wi-Fi signals. No camera, no device you're carrying, and no fingerprint. Just you standing in a room, existing, and the system knows who you are. Here's how it works. Wi-Fi signals travel from a router to your device, bouncing off people, walls, and furniture along the way. And when that signal passes through or around your body, it changes. And not just a little weaker, but altered in very specific ways. Your bones, organs, muscles, and the water in your tissues all have different densities, so they interact with radio waves differently. And that creates a unique pattern of distortion in the signal. Think of it like a fingerprint, but instead of leaving it on the surface, you're passively casting it out into the air every time you're near Wi-Fi. The system uses AI to learn these patterns. It's trained on examples of how different people's bodies affect Wi-Fi signals, and over time it builds a profile on each person. Once it's learned your signature, it can recognize you later and even in a different place using different Wi-Fi equipment. You don't have to do anything or carry anything. Your physical presence is enough. And this isn't just experimental speculation. Researchers used it on an actual data set and achieved 95.5% accuracy. The previous system from 2020 hit around 75%. That jump from 75 to 95 isn't just small progress. That's a fundamental shift in reliability. It means that the technology is now accurate enough to be deployed and used in the real world. And actually, Wi-Fi sensing didn't start with identifying people. Early research focused on basic tasks like identifying whether someone was in a room, recognizing simple hand gestures, or figuring out if someone had fallen. It was about presence and motion, not identity. You could tell that someone was behind a wall, but not who it was. Then in 2020, Wi-Fi sensing became an official standard, and that formalized the idea that Wi-Fi could be used for more than just transmitting data. It legitimized the field, and it signaled that this wasn't just academic research anymore. It was a recognized capability with real-world applications, and that's when the leap happened. We went from detecting that someone is there to identifying exactly who that someone is. The breakthrough relies on something called channel state information. When a Wi-Fi signal leaves a router, it's clean, but as it travels through space, it gets warped by everything it encounters. Channel state information captures those specific changes in detail. The strength of the signal, the timing, the shape. It's basically like the signal keeps a record of everything it passed through on its way from the transmitter to the receiver. And your body isn't a uniform blob. It's a complex structure with varying densities. Radio waves interact differently with bone than they do with muscle, and they interact with muscle different than they do with water. Those interactions create tiny but unique distortions in the signal. WhoFi is trained to detect those distortions and match them to individuals. It's learning to recognize your body's radio shadow. The big difference between this and other forms of identification is that you don't know that this one is happening. Facial recognition requires a camera pointed at your face. Fingerprints require you to touch something. Phone tracking requires you to carry a device. WhoFi requires none of this. It works in the dark, it works through walls, and it works whether you have your phone on you or not. You can leave your phone at home to avoid being tracked, and you can avoid cameras by staying out of their line of sight. But you cannot turn off your body, and as long as you're in the range of Wi-Fi signals, you're potentially identifiable. So that's the shift. Identification has moved from what you carry to what you actually are. And here's where it gets uncomfortable. Most tracking systems give you some level of control. You can turn off location services, you can put a sticker over your camera, and you can refuse to scan your fingerprint. But with WhoFi, there's no opt-out. If you're in the area and the system is running, it's already collecting data on you. And the worst part is, you wouldn't even know it was happening. However, the researchers frame this as potentially privacy preserving because it doesn't capture visual data. There's no photos or video footage, but that's a very narrow definition of privacy. If a system can identify you with 95% accuracy based solely on your physical presence, does it really matter that it's not using a camera? In my opinion, the outcome is still the same. You're being tracked and identified without your consent. So now the natural question is, what harmless applications does this technology have? Well, healthcare is the obvious one. You could, for example, monitor elderly patients for falls without putting cameras in their private spaces. Or if a person with dementia wanders out of a safe area, the system could alert a caregiver. That's genuinely useful and doesn't feel as invasive as constant video monitoring. Security is another application. You can monitor sensitive areas like server rooms or research labs without visible cameras. The system would alert you if an unauthorized person entered, all through an invisible Wi-Fi field. It is covert, which is both the advantage and the problem. But now it gets more serious. Once this technology reaches 99.9% accuracy or higher, it stops being a monitoring tool and becomes a biometric identification system. At that level of precision, nearly every person would have a unique Wi-Fi signature. Identical twins might be an exception, but for the vast majority of people, your body's interaction with radio waves would be as distinct as your fingerprint or your face, which means WhoFi could eventually become a sophisticated form of ID. Walk into a building and the system already knows who you are before you even reach the door. No badge, no scan, no check-in, just your presence. Corporations could use it to track employees, governments could use it for surveillance, and retailers could use it to monitor customer behavior in stores. And due to its invisibility, you would have no way of knowing when or where it was being deployed. The researchers emphasize that the system captures biometric patterns, not personal identity. Technically, it's just detecting a unique radio signature. But the second that signature gets linked to a name, an employee ID, or government records, it becomes your identity. And once that link exists, you're trackable anywhere the system is installed. It's like a fingerprint. The pattern doesn't really mean anything in and of itself until it's connected to you in a database. But once it is, it identifies you permanently. Right now, this is still an academic project. It's not being used commercially, but that gives us a window, a chance to actually think about the implications before this technology becomes widespread. Because once it's deployed at scale, it'll be nearly impossible to roll back. The infrastructure will already be in place, and companies and governments will argue that it's too embedded to just remove. Much like artificial intelligence, the fundamental issue is this: we're moving towards a world where your body itself is a form of ID. You can't change it, nor can you hide it, and if systems like WhoFi become common, you cannot escape it. Everywhere Wi-Fi exists, which is almost everywhere, you could be identifiable. This is not some hyper-futuristic technology. This is a present reality that just hasn't been rolled out yet. So the question right now is less, will this be used? It's more, who gets to control it, under what rules, and whether you get a say in the matter. Because currently, there are no regulations governing this kind of surveillance. No laws requiring disclosure, and no frameworks for consent. It's being developed in labs, and by the time it reaches the public, the decisions about how it will be used have already been made. If you want more videos about technologies that are being built without public input, go ahead and subscribe. And if this kind of invisible tracking concerns you, let me know down in the comments. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next week.